Testing.
You got a tap.
Everyone, I'd like to welcome everybody here to our August 27, 2019 business meeting. It is now 9 a.m. I would like to call this meeting to order on behalf of my fellow commissioners, Mayor Pro Tem Clark, my other fellow commissioners, Manager Madrid, and Renee Campina Clark. I would now ask that, Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Senator Whitehead.
Here.
Honorable Kathy Clark.
Here.
Honorable Rolf Heschler is absent. Honorable Paul Baca.
Here.
Honorable George Segedi.
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, and I would like for the minutes to reflect that Commissioner Heschler is not able to attend today as our meeting was changed from Wednesday to Tuesday, and he had other conflicting matters to attend to, so he is excused this morning. At this time, I would call for 15 minutes, or 15 seconds rather, of silent meditation. Please join me. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is the Pledge of Allegiance. Manager Madrid, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item 4B4, the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to approve the agenda with one change, and that's to poll E1, discussion on, E2, appointment to Sierra County Tourism Advisory Board to replace Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the removal of E2, the appointment of Sierra County Tourism Advisory Board to replace Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next item on our agenda this morning is item C, the consent calendar. The consent calendar this morning consists of 4 items. C1, City Commission Special Meeting Minutes of July 29, 2019. C2, City Commission Regular Minutes, August 14, 2019. C3, acknowledge the Public Utility Advisory Board minutes for July 15, 2019. And C4, acknowledge the Impact Fee Board minutes for November 19, 2018. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as noted?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next item on our agenda this morning is item D, ordinances, resolutions, and zoning. D1, discussion action, ordinance number 706 for publication, amending section 1116 of the Code of Ordinance pertaining to disposal fees for residential commercial haulers. Manager Madrid.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is cleanup of some of the language in our ordinance. At this time, I'll call on Andy to come up and give us a little better description of what we're trying to accomplish.
Good morning, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. I'm sure a few of you remember we had a landfill north of the airport there. A lot of the wording in here still had landfill charges that were going on at the landfill. And then we built a transfer station, and the changes were made, charging and stuff. Because out there, we charge by the cubic yard. It was $3 a cubic yard. Now that the landfill's been closed down by the state and we opened up the transfer station, our commissioners revised the new rates out there. So I had to redo some of the wording to fit the transfer station out there, the collection center.
Basically, we don't charge by the cubic yard, we charge by weight.
Charged by weight now, yes, sir.
So we remove those references.
Thank you. Is there any questions, commissioners? Are there any questions, comments?
Maybe I can
Attorney
chime in
Rubin?
also,
Yes.
so I'm the one that made these changes, so I can just kind of help out with the document you're actually looking at. Andy can follow, I'll make sure I'm on the same page again. The previous ordinance had the subsections A through G, there's 7 subsections, so let's talk about really now whether they're changed or not changed. Subsection A is the same, it's definitions. Subsection D, you'll see that was the, that talked about the resolution, which imposed disposal fees, that's not being deleted, as per our discussion. Paragraph B is not actually new, it's the old paragraph D, we just moved D up to B. The only thing I changed there is that I deleted the phrase landfill state, and instead we're using the phrase collection center.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the old paragraph C, regarding disposal fee of $3 per cubic yard, as we discussed, is being deleted.
Yes.
Paragraph C is really the old paragraph G. So I just moved that out from G to C. It's the same language, so there's really no change there. And then as far as discussion, the old D, E, F, and G are being deleted. So really, it looks like, a lot here, but really the changes I'm making really are just basically deleting a lot of stuff and just tweaking a little language here and there. That's all that happens.
Just a little cleanup to the ordinance.
Yes. And then I think really the reason why, and again, to make sure I'm clear, the reason why we're deleting a lot of these actual specific charges, because now we have those addressed by other parts of our code of ordinances and other resolutions, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
So the actual per ton charge or per pound charge is listed elsewhere, not in the section of the ordinance.
Correct.
Okay.
We actually have a price chart,
Okay, and
that's based on materials.
do we need to have a reference to that in the within the ordinance here, reference to the price chart, or say where that information is maintained?
I don't have the price chart in front of me. I don't know what the price chart says, to be honest. I don't know whether we would need to do that or not. Do you know?
So what you're saying is attach it to this here? Or?
Well, I don't know. The price charts actually say, this is, I'm sorry, how does that look?
Yeah, there's a chart that says from 0 to 100 pounds, it's this much, from 100 pounds to 200 pounds, it's this much.
And it also states in that article of the ordinance that it increases by 5%.
So that's my question. I'm part of my ignorance. Is there an actual ordinance that has?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
It's either an ordinance 648 or 649.
Okay, so I think,
So that was-
with that being said, Commissioners, again, I don't think we have to say anything further than.
Okay, all right. I was just thinking that, somebody looking for the costs, but if we got it covered elsewhere.
It's 649, right?
And Attorney Rubin, didn't we discuss that at our agenda review meeting, as to whether we needed to note that or not? And you said that at this time, we were only amending this section 1116.
Well, and I did say that, but it's also helpful, I think, Mr. Casey, that's a good question. It makes sense to make sure that we reference these charges in another part of the ordinance, which you're saying it does.
And you did state that at that
Okay.
time, right?
Okay.
Okay. Are there any
Thank you.
further?
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there any further questions, comments, concerns?
Just one comment, Mayor. And the comment I'd like to make is that it's really refreshing to see an ordinance come up in front of us to get cleaned up.
Right.
And I appreciate that, because that's the promise that Mayor Manager Madrid had made to us, that he was going to take a look at these things now. So, and I thank you, Andy and company, for taking some action on this one. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, if there's no other further questions, comments, or concerns, I will stand for a motion to go to publication on ordinance number 706.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
And do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and 2 seconds for ordinance number 706 to go to publication, amending section 1116 of the Code of Ordinance pertaining to disposal fees for residential and commercial haulers, as noted by Andy Alvarez and Kristen. Are there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, we don't need a roll call. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners.
The next item on our agenda this morning is item E1, discussion action, live, work in downtown buildings. City Manager and Commissioner, Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Mayor and Commissioners, this, I understand, has been an issue for a while here in Tier C. And before I defer to Mayor Pro Tem, I'll give you a little bit of my perspective, because I came in from outside of Tier C. Now, from what I understand, we have some spaces that are intended and zoned for business, but not being used for that purpose. We have some that are not being used at all. We have some that are being used for residences. That type of mixture, without any incentives for one way or the other, creates a kind of stagnant economic picture that we have. And I think it needs to change. Now, it can go, it should go one way or the other. Albuquerque, which is not Tier C, has done it both ways for downtown development. They, in one section, created incentives for people to live there and work there to create more activity at night. They also created incentives for businesses to develop without the owners living in the area, to create economic activity during the day. I think what we're doing by not acting on anything is not accomplishing anything. So you either want to be accommodating or you want to have economic development. I know that you cannot enact anything retroactively to change what's happened and to change a lot of the status of the people that are there now, but we can create incentives, not necessarily penalties, and a situation that's more friendly to move forward. So that's my conceptual idea. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Mayor Pro Tem Clark, do you have any comments, questions, concerns?
Well, I appreciate your perspective, Manager Madrid, and we have talked about this before, and the concept we gave is a couple of special use permits without anything in real place. And the idea was that if you live there, you will open up. This is a commercial zoned district, and it is handy if people can live in a downtown area, because it does create more activity, and it makes things look a little more viable. And it's a tough decision, I think, for us to make. And I think that a lot of people also don't realize that we put into place several years ago a LEDA Act. And this LEDA Act does encourage people who want to open up commercially downtown, that the city has the ability to freeze utility rates or something for a period of time, or there have been grants that are available to people as long as we have the LEDA Act in place to open up businesses. And I think that needs to be brought to the foreground again. But I agree with Manager Madrid that we need to make some decision one way or the other. But also, Mayor, I would like to make certain that we have a full commission before we make that decision. And I would feel very uncomfortable making a decision today without Commissioner Heschler sitting up here with us.
Thank you. So at this time, we would make a motion to table this or
Postpone until the next meeting, until we have a full commission. But I would like my fellow commissioners to please think about, what this is, and to look at that LEDA Act. I'm not sure how easily or readily available it is. Maybe Clerk Canton could get a copy of that to us again. Sure. Because we did spend an awful lot of time putting that together. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Attorney Rubin?
And let me just throw one idea out there, so you can think about between now and the next meeting. I don't know that we necessarily would need to really revise our code, but I think what you can do is, when you are contemplating whether to grant someone this application for a special use permit, that would be the time to actually put the conditions that you want right in the permit itself. You know, in other words, you say that, oh, this permit is being issued on the conditions of, and then you set forth what those conditions are, that the person needs to be open a certain number of hours per week, and whatever else you think is appropriate. And that's something that can be reviewed on an annual basis. So that's one idea I had, that maybe, I don't know if you just have to tweak the words, I think it's maybe it's a question of a case-by-case basis. As someone comes before you with a request, what changes or what conditions you want to post.
But wouldn't it be inappropriate to not be consistent with every special use permit that's being brought up to the commission?
Well, what I'm thinking is the conditions may be the same for everybody, is really what I had in mind, you know, but nevertheless, you would want to keep it open mind. There may be some special circumstances a particular person may have. That's why I'm leaving it open also. Yes, I mean, it does make sense to be consistent. Yes, it does.
Okay.
So I guess, okay, so maybe we could go either way with it. You know, if you really feel like, hey, this is something we want to make sure is for every special use permit, then yes, we can, then you'd be right. And let's go ahead and amend the ordinance to say that. But if you wanted to kind of give yourself some leeway, then you wouldn't have to do that. So that's why I'm mentioning it today, so we have a voice to think about this.
I'm making a motion to postpone this conversation here.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second? Postpone.
I'll second, but I do have a comment I would like to add
Thank you.
before we move on. Would it be appropriate, along with this discussion, to include the issue of vacant or unused, storefronts in this discussion, or should that be a separate discussion? I'm just asking my fellow commissioners if we wanted to put those together or set up to do something different with those.
Commissioner Seghetti, we gave a special use permit to a place that did not have a living space in the back. So maybe your point's well taken, because any one of those buildings could have, get, CID permits to put a living space in the back if that was included in a special use permit. So maybe the answer is yes.
Yep, I would think we could discuss both.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, is
Good
there
point.
any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor to postpone till our next meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item F, new business. F1, discussion action. Approve the subcontractor agreement with the Truth or Consequences Municipal School District for the 2019-2020 Juvenile Justice Adversary Council, JJAC, through Children, Youth, and Families Division, CYFD. City Manager Madrid.
Mayor, Commissioners, will the superintendent and his staff come up to give us a little bit of background and information on the grant and the intent of the grant? I need to apologize to the commission and explain that the language within the agreement needs to be cleaned up a little bit more. And just in references to subcontractor, contractor, the term, the dollar amounts, the intent, the scope of work, that's all fine. I'm still going to recommend that you would agree, that you approve the agreement with the changes that need to be made for everyone's benefit. So with that, Mr. Superintendent, please.
All right, well, thank you for this opportunity. City Manager, Mayor, Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to come and visit a little bit. Not sure if you know much about the grant and what it is, how much background I need to go into. The Juvenile Justice Advisory Council is actually made up of a number of entities, city police, the sheriff, the schools, people from the hospital, JPO, the DA. Several people meet together. And really, the major goal is just reduction in truancy, suspensions, looking at it through the school, making sure that kids graduate on time, as well as, looking at, crime and substance abuse, those type of things, being able to provide some counseling for those students that may be identified as needing it. And really an alternative to maybe JPO. Are there some things that we can do, providing them with some counseling and some mentorship, those type of things? This is actually, I believe, the final year of this grant. The new grant cycle actually comes out starting next week for the grant meeting. And it'll be a 4-year grant, potentially more money. The amount of this grant is $42,157. And additionally, there's a 4% administrative fee for the city's administration. And, I mean, we've got several things already in the works. We're meeting with the DA, JPO, the schools, our truancy staff and principals on September 3rd. And we've always faced some problems through public ed and legislative, which I'm sure you guys do too. And we had an attendance coach, I believe, in 16-17, didn't get the grant in 17-18, received the grant in 18-19, was supposed to be a 2-year grant, and then the legislature took that money or PED or whatever, and they wrapped it all into our unit value, and there just wasn't that funding that we were promised. So we see this grant as being able to maybe fill some holes and stuff that have been created, things that have disappeared through legislation. One of the reports that I did see, there were 176 individual students that were seen through the grant and over 1,000 hours worth of mentorship. So I think it's something that's really good for the kids. The club works with us. They've got some after-school tutoring and stuff that they're able to do. It's just a whole community effort. They say it takes a village to raise a child, and that's really what this grant is about, is taking every resource that we have and being able to pull them all together. So I don't know a lot about the grant, but I will try to answer your questions, and the experts, it's sort of at our office. They voluntold me I would speak. So we're supposed to have the fire marshal in today, and he canceled till tomorrow, so I've got all morning. So, but the experts are behind me. If you have some questions, I stand to answer those. I guess what needs to happen at this point is we need approval of the subcontract so that we can proceed. And then from there, one of the things that would make it a whole lot easier, and talking to Representative Dow, is if we can make her the sort of the intermediary between the city. She can get all the emails and stuff, so it'll relieve what Morris has on his plate, and she can receive all that communication. My understanding is there's more money available, but we just have to know about that stuff and then attack it. There is some in-kind stuff written within the grant. The school district will provide that in-kind by our locations, our internet, a lot of the things that we're doing within the school location-wise. So there is no in-kind that we expect from the city that the grant calls. I believe it was like $17,000 of in-kind. The school district will take care of that portion of that. So, and we will document that. We'll get all the billing to the city in a timely manner so that can get presented to the state as well. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Piper.
Madam Mayor, I had the pleasure of getting a little bit more information about this program. I'm not sure if my fellow commissioners are very familiar with it. If they're not, it might not be a bad idea to ask the superintendent's professional geniuses behind him to at least give us a short, brief rundown on what that program does.
See, we made it. You're not the only one that talks now.
Stephanie Brownfield and Dr. Renee Garcia.
I think the main benefit of the JJAC is really the collaboration that takes place with the JJAC meetings. We usually have a joint meeting with the OSAP, the Office of Substance Abuse Prevention, and it really brings together stakeholders in the community. Health, the hospital has been involved, Sharon Finarelli, the JPO, but really our goal in collaboration with the club is to make sure that our students are safe, that they're in school, that they are achieving at the highest level possible. And so part of the problems that we've had in the past, and I'm really happy that we're moving forward, is because the club, there's FERPA issues that the school district has to deal with that sometimes we can't share a lot of information with outside agencies. We can share directory information and such, but we can't share a lot of sensitive information. And so now having it within the schools, we can address those issues in a very timely manner. We can triage and find the support that the students need. And so I see this as a really good opportunity to kind of put forward our goals that we have as far as student success. And so I'm really, really happy that we took it over, and in collaboration with the club. We're still collaborating with the Apple Tree Network and the city and everybody else, but I think that when it's in our ballpark, we can get a lot more done, is the way I see it. So, want to add anything to that, sir?
And one of the things the schools have gone forward is we put out for a job description, and we've already interviewed and have a young lady, Jayla Pendleton, that is willing to do the work. She is working on her social work. She has a background. She can do the assessment part. She can do the tutoring part. She can go in and work with the families. And so we've moved forward in that area and trying to get in. Some of the areas that we'll be working on will be such as she'll be a coordinator. She'll be able to travel. She'll be able to work. She'll get a permission slip from the student for the parents, and that way she can work with the student and talk to the parents and try. And some of the things that we're going to be working in the high school is the principal might call her and say, I have a young man, he's already missed 3 days of school, can you come in and work with him? And so if we start the counseling early, maybe we can prevent this from going to a 10-day truancy to where they're out on the street, they're doing things that maybe they shouldn't be doing. The parents then are working with us. We get the collaboration from the home to the school. And then I think it's a win-win in that respect. She also has a diversion program, which she does individual sessions, and she'll do group sessions in that sense. She also will have a mentoring program that she can go during lunchtime. Principals can refer for mentoring. The principals will know through the social workers if they have needs. And then we also have a needs assessment that she will be doing with the students. And so these are just some of the things that we're working at, and she can actually go to the homes if necessary. We've already had one meeting that we worked with Bobby Sanders. Judge Sanders has come to our meeting, and so we had a table with all of the principals involved as well as with Mrs. Pendleton. And so the next meeting is going to be on the 3rd, and we're going to have stakeholders such as Mercedes Murphy, Bobby Sanders, Rita Cragen, Clint Wellborn, all of the stakeholders that are going to help in the prevention of helping our students. And so we want success. We want that graduation. We don't want students on the street. We don't want kids failing. Then it becomes a city problem when they're out on the streets. And so I think it's a great program, and we really would like to have the collaboration with y'all and move forward.
And it's really a unique grant because it has to run through a municipality. That's what makes it so different. I mean, we can't just apply for it as the school district unless that changes legislatively or something through the next session. And that's where we need to partner with the city. Is it has to come through a municipality, and that's why we're looking for the partnership. So.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And my understanding, Mayor, is that this is just a pass-through through the city. There's no obligation to us other than just being the fiscal agent on this particular grant. Is that correct? Okay.
And so, Manager Madrid, when you explain to us the cleanup on the language, because
yes,
I admit I was very confused when I read it myself. So.
Right. Yes, and we should have taken care of that sooner. However, we didn't want to hold up the approval of this important program. I would ask that the maker of the motion make the motion with the language that says, with the language to be clarified by both parties. And what we'll do, I'll work with the attorney to clarify that language, and we'll make sure that we agree on it with the superintendent. And at that point, we'll execute the agreement fully. But I guess you could either use that language or approve the concept and the grant agreement itself for this program. Jake, do you have a preference?
I think the second that you're about to say there, I think my preference would be that you approve the concept of an agreement between the city and the schools and you're authorizing the city manager to make the necessary changes to the contract, which he and I have already discussed, or we're not going to get back to you. You know, so that's what I'm looking at.
I'll make that motion.
So, and I'll second that motion. And again, with the question to clarify in my mind that then this is a pass-through, and the city is then the contractor, and the school district is the subcontractor.
That's correct. We are, technically, we're a contractor, but we are also a grantee.
Grantee.
So we administer the grant, we process the paperwork, and they do all the work. So, it's not anything new to us. This is a grant that we've had in place before.
All right,
And
therefore I have a motion and 2 seconds to approve as noted by Attorney Rubin and Manager Madrid. Renee, did you get all of that?
Got it.
Are there any further questions, comments, concerns?
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh,
I
thank you. We
it. The fact
appreciate
that
your
you've already
time.
jumped and tried to get going on it. It's very, very nice program, it sounds like.
And we went ahead and started our person July 1 per the grant, because we wanted to make sure the kids had the service, and then we, you know, trusted that, you know, we would be able to work out a partnership. So thank you for doing that, and we'll make sure we get the paperwork in as needed, and Manager Madrid, as soon as you get that cleaned up, I'll swing by your office and we can take care of it.
You will let
Very
me
good.
know.
All righty?
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item F2, discussion action, award RFP number 1819-007 for Advanced Meter Infrastructure, AMI project. Manager Madrid.
Mayor, Commissioners, before I describe the selection process and make a recommendation, I'd like to ask Bo to give us a little bit of background. This process has been going on for a few years, and I'd like for everyone to know about that. Bo.
Morning, Mayor. Morning, Pro Team. Morning, fellow commissioners. Morning, Mr. City Manager. We all know that we've been working on this project for 5 years, George. We've kicked it around quite a few times. When I started with the city, the meter reader position was one of the positions that everybody wanted. It was pretty laid back and everything, but now over the years, the position has become very complicated, dealing with the obstacles that they encounter every day. I'm going to bring back this PowerPoint that I showed you guys a few months ago, some of the obstacles that the meter reader goes through. Hopefully. There it goes. So the right button, Renee?
Yeah, left and right.
So the automatic meter reading system. Obstacles encountered while reading meters. The guys deal with dogs on a daily basis. A lot of residents have been building 6-foot fences around their property. Getting hard for us to access the meters, to read the meters. Vegetation, we have vegetation problems. People have built porches on the back of their houses, enclose the meters where we can't get in to read the meters, and then also lock gates. Here you can see where we don't have no access to get in the backyard to read the meter. You see a couple pet bulls there. This right here, the meter reader would have to read with binoculars. Fences, 6-foot fences all the way around the property. We have a resident that even put glass on top of the fence so nobody could jump over the fence. Vegetation, you know, people put the meter cans on the poles on the outside of their property, and then we still have to go through the weeds and the vegetation to get to the meters. Lock gates, you see, we have numerous keys to get into people's property to unlock the gate to get in. Meter readers have to take time, look for the key to get it to the right property. Meter readers average 220 meters read a day. Holiday seasons requires more meters read a day to stay on schedule. Extra work if a meter reader is on vacation or sick. They do read meters every day, every month. Average 6 walking miles a day, 108 miles a month walked by each meter reader. Meter readers are exposed to injuries while reading meters. Dog bites, insect bites, sprained ankles. They're just... So the benefits of an AMI system: ability to read meters in a much quicker time, ability to read the meters accurately. The system is compatible with the city's billing software, Tyler. Logs data of the customer usage on a daily basis. So the AMI will be logging every customer's usage every day. So when the customer does come back to say, well, there's no way we use this much electricity, we have everything logged that we can show them on the computer what days they use more than other days and everything. Other than that, Mr. Madrid, you want to?
From there, Mayor and Commissioners, we worked with experts to develop the request for proposals. That was published and sent out. There was a pre-proposal conference for any questions that any of the providers might have. Then the proposals were submitted. They were evaluated by a committee on a points basis. That committee met to review the results of the evaluations. Those evaluations were done individually and privately, not as a group. Then the committee met as a group to decide on the final 3. The final 3 were then called in for interviews and presentations before the committee. After that, the committee met a final time to determine the recommendation to select a provider. At the last meeting, the commission approved the negotiations with an appropriate provider. Those negotiations have taken place. During the negotiations, the provider agreed to reduce the price by about 8.5%, which is the amount that we would have had to pay in gross receipts tax. That brought the price under the budgeted amount of $1 million. A couple of the other highlights of the system are, one of the best ones that I've seen is it will provide a visual map for where the customers are, where service is out, so that in case of outages, we'll have exact pinpoint locations that we can depend on instead of telephone calls. So outages can be addressed much quicker. It's a good system to have for emergency management. These readings are digital. As Bo said, they are more accurate and they are real time. I think the cycle is minutes, no longer than 2 or 3 minutes that the readings take place. We'll have the capability to activate and deactivate service without sending anyone out in the field. One of the conveniences of that is if someone is delinquent in their bill, we can not only send them a notice, but we can also get their attention by turning off their electricity for a period of a few minutes to get them to call us. When we get them to call us, then we can remind them, you need to come in and make a payment on your bill. We also have the ability, like Bo said, to give the customers better information. If there's a dispute in the consumption, we can have a case where we can tell the customer, your consumption was really high between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. Well, naturally, it was in the winters, their furnace was running. That's a high amp motor that's running. Okay, that makes sense. If there's something that doesn't make sense, they may be able to go through their homes and find an appliance or something that's not working properly. The final thing is that the cost savings that will be generated by not having to have the meter readers out there all the time. Meter readers don't just cost their salary. They cost in benefits that we have to match, retirement insurance that we have to match, and that's for a long time. These savings are permanent. They're not just temporary. So this system will more than pay for itself over a period of time. It's also something that the providers were going to be moving to anyway. So had we chosen to delay this, the co-op may have mandated this in a few years down the line anyway. With that, I recommend your approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Any questions?
Yeah, I'm tired of looking at that wall with the glass on top. Yeah, so this outfit's going to not only provide the equipment, but they're going to install it too.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the time frame on it?
I would say, once we get everything ordered and everything, I would say six months.
So it'll go in stages through different sections of
Yes,
the
ma'am.
city. So the only other question, and I asked the manager about this, but I'd like to bring it up again, this is Kathy's problem, and that is there are a few places where these meters are not going to be compatible with the service entrance.
Yes, ma'am.
And how are we going to handle that?
So the residential, we will have, every meter is going to fit into the residential. The only problem we'll have is a few commercials meters. Until we get that meter can switched over, we'll leave the old meter there, but the readers will go out and read that by hand. And they should only have, I would say, 40, 50 meters at the most to read by hand, which shouldn't take them but 2 hours, I would think, that it could be read.
So the consideration that we're going to make, because we're making this big step forward, is that if there is no compatibility, we're going to continue to recognize that we're not going to go
Yes,
in and ask somebody to bring their building up to
No,
code
ma'am.
because
No, ma'am.
that's something that we've done. So that is taken care of in
Yes,
there. I
ma'am.
don't need to make that motion that we're not.
No, ma'am.
I just won't do that.
What we'll do is we'll log the meters, those areas that we cannot change the meter, and then we'll put them on paper. So we'll read them by hand, but also I will have them on my desk where in the future down the line, we'll start working on switching the meter cans out to upgrade the meter cans so we can put them new meters in there.
Meter cans, new meters, am I still hearing that you're not going to be asking somebody to rewire their building?
Exactly. No, nobody will be.
Are we hearing this? This is going to get in the minutes, please.
We're going to be doing that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Easley.
Yes,
I knew you were going to do that, but I just wanted you to say it again. Thanks.
All right, now, you have mentioned a number of times in previous meetings, that we have a number of buildings where alterations have been made and things where the meter is not accessible to the meter readers. And we also passed an ordinance not long ago making the homeowners responsible for making these meters accessible. I remember we pushed that through the PUAB when I was on there. Now, while we're in this process and we're putting new meters in, are we going to be doing anything to actually enforce that ordinance which the commission previously passed to get these meters in an accessible location?
I believe so, we could, yes, sir.
Because, I mean, it could be one of those things that, we, again, those can be left till last, but I think, because we still need to have access to the meters, even if the meter reader is not going out there every month to read it.
Exactly.
We have to have access, we have to make sure they haven't been tampered with, and stuff like that. And I think this is the ideal time to make sure that those people, and most of the time it's because of alterations that the people have made to their own property and did not, at that time they should have moved the meters themselves. I think this is the ideal time to get in there and make sure all of the meters are located in a spot where they're accessible to the electric department personnel.
No, I agree with you 100% because the people that are going to be installing the meters, they will be taking pictures of the old meter, the meter can, and everything. So we will be logging all of these places down also too. So.
Thank you. Manager Madrid.
One more thing that I should have mentioned, Mayor, Commissioners, is one criteria that we did set in the selection of the provider is the future capability to incorporate the same concept for water meters and the reading of those meters. The meters themselves, we'll need to place that on a faster track because we are experiencing a great amount of system loss in our water system, and a lot of it comes from the inefficiency of our meters. These will be compatible.
Also, I'd like to make one note too that you said the theft of meters. These meters will have a theft device on them. If the meter is tampered with or anything, if the meter is slightly turned or anything, it sends a red flag back to the utility office that this meter is being tampered with. So
that's good. Oh, and I know some of the systems they had actually allowed the customers to come in through their computer and internet connection to monitor their own usage.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that will be available.
Yes, sir.
I want to make another point on these, and this is for our commercial customers, those that are on a demand meter. The current demand meters we have, they show what the peak demand is during the month from the last time the meter was read, and they are charged according to that peak demand.
Yes, sir.
Now, they have no idea of when that demand occurred or, or how many times they hit that peak or whatever. With this system, it monitors that demand constantly, just like it monitors the kilowatt hour usage. This enables the business owners to look at their usage and find out when that peak demand occurs. Then they could adjust their systems, make sure everything doesn't come on at the same time, reduce that peak demand by judiciously managing their electrical equipment, reduce that demand charge, and which can potentially save them quite a bit of money. So it allows them to, like I said, manage their own resources in a smarter manner.
Yes, sir, you're correct.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions, comments, concerns?
I gotta admire your tenacity, 5.5 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Congratulations.
Maybe some of my regular hair grows back to straight gray.
All right, at this moment, I will stand for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I would like to make a motion to award RFP number 18-19-007 for Advanced Meter Infrastructure AMI project as presented by City Manager Madrid and by Mr. Isla.
Do I have a second?
But I think you need to say who you're actually making the award to, don't you?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
what's it? To
Landis?
Landis, okay.
That's your,
Landis and Gear. LNG.
LNG?
LNG.
LNG. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to award RFP number 18-19-007 for Advanced Meter Infrastructure AMI project to LNG. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Congratulations. The next item on our agenda this morning is reports. G1. City Manager, do you have a report this morning?
I have a very brief one, Mayor and Commissioners. We did get our phone system converted on Friday, and the conversion itself was successful. We're still adapting, and we're still setting groups in our phone system. We're still setting voicemails and designating the way that it should work, how the ratings roll over and things like that. We're probably going to be in this learning process for another couple of weeks. The phone system is working properly, so you may encounter not being able to leave a voicemail for another couple of days. You may reach the wrong department for a day or two, but the phone system is working, and for the most part, the phone calls are going exactly where they need to. The other thing that I wanted to update you all on is our pool. Bo and I and Kyle went out and we brought in an engineer to take a look at the possible use of the inflatable dome again. And there's concerns with the placement of the electrical outlets and the safety of the use of that dome during the winter. So we walked through it. The engineer didn't like the way that the design was set up. He deemed it unsafe to use. With that, Bo contacted the electrical inspector from Construction Industries Division and asked him to take a look at it. I don't think that we got a favorable review from that either. We'll be getting an official communication from the state on that. So it does not look like we will be able to use that dome. However, we are looking into alternative designs that we could use some of the New Mexico Finance Authority funding that's already been approved for. There's at least one or two designs that Kyle has found from companies that have done this in Canada, where they've enclosed outdoor pools in a much colder climate to make them efficient and friendly and not overly expensive. The cost of a new pool is something that we can't afford right now, but we should plan for in the future. Those designs are going to be reviewed by an architect, and from there we'll develop cost estimates on a few different ideas to enclose the pool in the future. Other than that, I'd like to invite everyone to come and meet with me tonight at 6 o'clock here in the chambers as part of our public input process. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Attorney Rubin, do you have a report?
no, I do not.
Thank you. Commissioner Baca, do you have a report?
I do not.
Commissioner Clark?
Just a comment, and I was mentioning just before the meeting started, I walked down and got to see for 5.5 years, like Mr. Easley, I've been waiting to see a brand new water line put in a properly broken pipe, and it just tickles me pink to see that. So I gotta thank you and the water department and everybody else, because like, it's just, you know, talk about a cost savings in the long run. And it's just a beautiful blue. It's so much prettier.
And it looks really nice, even though it's gonna be covered up by dirt.
Yeah, that's fine. No, thank you. Thank you for making sure that's done properly. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Spaghetti, do you have a report?
Okay, I will try to keep this short, and I don't know if we can get in out of here by 10 or not, but,
It's a mayor record. You got 3 minutes.
okay. I just want to make a couple of comments. It kind of irritates me when people have complaints or bring up issues and stuff. And a lot of people feel that they have to, I guess, exaggerate the severity of the problem in order to get the city to act on it. I've had to deal with some, they have a noisy neighbor, and of course now this noisy neighbor is cooking meth, and that's why they're noisy. I mean, it turns out to be untrue. I've run into a couple of different situations where, the person making the complaints has exaggerated the severity. The last one that came up had to do with some alleged squatters that were on a piece of property. They claimed that they were threatened with a gun, that they were putting human waste in the poly carts, and I know the chief was familiar with this, and the Tracy Burnett, and everybody was hearing about this, and there was quite a bit of an uproar at the time. And when they went out to the site, they found out that the couple there was actually buying the property. They weren't even squatters. They were friendly and cooperative, and everything was in order. And it just annoys me when people do stuff like that. They make up stuff just to, I don't know if they were trying to make trouble for them or what, but that kind of thing bothers me. But that kind of leads me to another unrelated point. When I heard about some of this, and I said, they're putting human waste in the poly carts. The sanitation department should know about this, so they know to check those rather than to just pick it up and dump it in and contaminate their. And so I sent a note back to Mr. Alvarez. And, well, it turns out, and this has happened several times before when I have brought up a concern, that our city staff is already 2 steps ahead of me on this, and I do want to congratulate them for the cooperation and communication that goes on within our departments, and also ask their forgiveness. I'm the kind of person that likes to be helpful, and they'll hear from me now and then on these situations. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. It's just kind of the way I am. But I appreciate everything they do. And if you're already got it under control, that is great. And like I said, don't take it as I'm criticizing or trying to tell you to do your business. I'm just trying to give a little helping hand here and there where I can. That's all I've got.
Thank you. And I would just like to send out a big thank you to the water, wastewater, electric, all the city staff that work many and long hours in this heat with our electric, with our water leaks. I know that we've had several in the last couple of 3 weeks, and you guys are doing an amazing job, and I know you work long and hard hours, and you really appreciate it. You just don't know how much you are. And again, I thank each and every one of you. I thank the chief and his department for staying on top of things. I know that roads have been barricaded. I know that people are unhappy because they can't cross through different areas. And so, again, these are blocked off for your safety and for everybody else's safety. So please, please acknowledge the barricades and respect that we're not doing it only for us, but we are doing it for you as well. And last, I would just like to wish everyone a very happy and safe Labor Day weekend. Enjoy this heat. Thank you. That's all I have. The next item is an adjournment. I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Goodbye.
1 hour, 3 minutes, I guess.
Oh my gosh, I'm over my 3 minutes.